Hey, Shabbat Shalom, and welcome back, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Parable of the Vineyard YouTube live stream. My name is Adam, your host, and I welcome you. Tonight we're going to talk about a pretty sensitive topic. This is something that's been debated since, well, the last couple thousand years, probably even before that. Let's start with prayer. Heavenly Father, Yahuah Most High, we come before you in Yahusha's name and bless and praise you and thank you, Father, for all that you do for us. Thank you for salvation through the blood of the Lamb, Father. Thank you for opening our eyes to your truth in these last days, your light, the life of men, Father. We just pray that tonight that your word would speak for itself, Father, and that with a sensitive issue like this, we can really get to the bottom of things and figure out what your word actually says. Father, I pray that your Ruach HaKodesh would be amongst us to open our eyes and ears to hear what your word says. In Yahusha's mighty name, we bless and praise you and honor you. Amen and amen. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters. So, very sensitive topic tonight we're going to discuss. I'm going to do my best to really let the word just speak for itself with as little interaction for myself as possible. As we've found, the world has had so much influence on doctrine. We're coming out of Babylon. We're coming out of Egypt. And we're realizing that the religious powers, whether it be the religious Pharisaical Jews of old or the Catholic Church, whatever, they've both had their hands into Yah's doctrine, Yah's word, and really changed really the definition of things and how we look at things. And I'm gonna be honest with you, divorce and remarriage is no different. We find that religious entities, religious spirit likes to bind heavier burdens on men and women than what Yah had actually intended. And it is my opinion, my understanding at this time that divorce is no different. And so let's get into it. First, we'll start with Shofar Blast. Okay, so here we are. We're at www.parableofthevineyard.com. Everything we're going over tonight will have, I'll have an article form for you. So if you want to go back, this is basically all my notes that I have here. So you can go back and recheck the scriptures I've shared. Or if you know somebody that doesn't like a video format, would just rather just read it for themselves, here it is all right here. So tonight the topic is divorce, remarriage, submission, Messiah, and of course the Torah and how this all relates. So as we maintain our exodus out of Babylon, Egypt, if you will, and her ways, we continuously are met with situations in our lives that require us to re-examine the mainstream doctrine we've been inundated with. The topic of divorce is no exception. Today we will explore what Yahuah's word really says about divorce and the other topics we're going to discuss as well. But the main focus here is divorce. It's a topic of great discussion, and no wonder the divorce rates in this country are so high. And since we're coming out of this country and this world, it's naturally that a lot of us have been in this situation. So some of the topics we're going to explore tonight are: divorce is allowed? Does Yahuah hate it? Did Messiah Yahusha teach something new in regard to divorce? So in something opposite to what the Torah says. Are divorcees second-rate children of Yahuah? Are wives supposed to submit to men even if they lead them astray? Like full submission, no questions asked. These and many other concepts regarding marriage will be covered in this study. Let me preface this whole study with this. I believe marriage is a sacred union between a man and woman. Let me repeat that, man and woman. Its likeness is born to bear resemblance to our covenant, our union, or marriage with our Creator. Marriage should never be taken lightly, much less divorce, which should be the last option available. A true diligence to preserve and maintain the marriage should be upheld at all times. With that being said, let's dive into the Word. So we're going to start with the Torah. What does the Torah say? I think a lot of us are coming out of religion and realizing that Yahuah's Torah is eternal. It's forever. It's our instructions for life. This is the basis and foundation of the things that I believe in. Deuteronomy 24, 1-2. When a man has taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send it out of his house. And when she has departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. That's what the Torah says. Okay. We're going to explore what Messiah said and many other topics here and really break down what he said, and we'll get to the bottom of it. So the Torah is clear. While it may not be something anyone should want, nor will it be necessarily promoted in this study, it's allowed. We will address Master Yahusha's word shortly. Nevertheless, we need to explore this word for uncleanness, which is the basis for a legal divorce, scripturally speaking. So here's the Hebrew word. Let's take a look at the Hebrew word, erva, right? And many times it was translated as nakedness, exposed, undefended, indecency, improper behavior, right? Different word than adultery is what we'll find. And I think that's usually the big disconnect. We'll talk about that. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but this kind of uncleanness, nakedness, exposed, if you will. This word was heavily translated as nakedness. Here are some of the uses. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For you shall no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones, grind the meal, uncover your locks, make bare the leg, uncover the thigh, right? Be uncovered. Pass over the rivers. Your nakedness, erva, shall be uncovered. Yes, your shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet you as a man. Isaiah 47, 1-3. So we know this is speaking of Babylon, the great whore, although we got to ask ourselves, why was she deemed as such a woman, a whore, naked? And why was her nakedness revealed? Wherefore, O harlot, hear the word of Yahuah. Thus says Yahuah Elohim, because your filthiness was poured out, and your nakedness discovered through your whoredoms with your lovers, and with all the idols of your abominations, and by the blood of your children, which you did give unto them. Behold, therefore I will gather all your lovers, with whom you have taken pleasure, and all them that you have loved, and with all them that you have hated. I will even gather them round about against you, and will discover your nakedness unto them, that they may see all your nakedness. This is that Hebrew word erva, right? And I will judge you as a woman that breaks wedlock, shed blood, are judged. And I will give you blood and fury and jealousy. And I will also give into their hand, and they shall throw down your eminent place, and shall break down your high places. They shall strip you also of your clothes, and shall make you your fair jewels, and leave you naked and bare. And shall take off your fair jewels, and leave you naked and bare. Ezekiel 16:35-39. So there's a few things to note in this passage. First, it's clear that this whoredom was in direct consequence to serving idols, false gods, unlawful worship, also known as spiritual fornication. Furthermore, Yashrael was deemed naked through this unlawful union with the world, which gives us more understanding as to the true implications of a lawful Deuteronomy 24 divorce, uncleanness or nakedness. And the man that commits adultery with another man's wife, even he that commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall be surely put to death. So notice the penalty of physical adultery isn't divorce, it's death. There is no need for divorce. That person is dead, gone. And by them being dead, that contract's null and void anyways. The contract being the contract of divorce. The contract of marriage is they're null and void through the death of their former spouse. So what I'm getting at is, I think many would interpret Deuteronomy 24 as you can only write or bill divorcement if you find this uncleanness, and therefore uncleanness has to be adultery. And they'll tie that into what Messiah says in Matthew 5 and 19, which we're going to explore here shortly. But we're just kind of setting the basis of what's really going on here. So let's talk about this nakedness spiritually. For they said unto me, make us Elohim, which shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him. And I said unto them, whosoever has any gold, let them break it off. So they gave it me. Then I cast into the fire, and there came out this calf. And when Moshe saw that the people were naked, for Aharon had made them naked unto their shame among their enemies. Exodus 32:23-25. In the Aramaic, it's this nakedness is a spiritual nakedness. It makes it clear that's a spiritual nakedness, that they all didn't literally take off their clothes. But even if they did, it's a parable of what this idolatry and false worship renders the person naked. Likewise, we see this revealing of nakedness in the transgression of Adam and Eve. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. Genesis 3:7. So finally, we see this come to fruition, or full circle, if you will, through one of the parables taught by Yahusha. This has to do with when one is spiritually impure, transgression, contrary to Yahuah. So those servants went out into the highways and gathered together all as many as they found, both bad and good, and the wedding was furnished with guests. And when the king came in to see the guests, he saw there a man which had not on a wedding garment. And he said unto him, Friend, how did you come in here with not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then said the king to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and take him away, and cast him into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 22:10-13. So the one who was without garment, naked, if you will, was cast out. Once again, this nakedness or uncleanness was through the transgression or disobedience, if you will. Let's look at Malachi 2. Also, I have this study because I tend to go fast through the information because there's a lot to go over. So if I go too fast, you can always go back and check out this study for yourself. Malachi 2. For Yahuah, the Elohim of Yashrael, says that he hates putting away. For one covers violence with his garment, says Yahuah Sebaot. Therefore take heed to your spirit that you deal not treacherously. Malachi 2:16. So does Yahuah hate divorce? Sure he does. Should we hate it? Yeah. He never wanted to divorce Yashrael, yet he had to. Why? Transgressions, spiritual fornication, stiffened necks, not wanting to hearken to his Torah. If divorce is a sin, then Yahuah transgressed. Therefore, it cannot be, because Yahuah divorced Israel. So what we're doing is we're breaking down the religious spirit behind divorce, mainly the Catholic Church, because what we'll find, and I'm going to share my evidence with you shortly, what we'll find is Judaism and Catholicism are on two different ends of the spectrum. Judaism, they kind of made it wide open, like you can just divorce for whatever. Well, and I'll show you some quotes from Judaism, straight from the Talmud. Basically, they can just divorce for whatever. You cooked my meal improperly, you're out. See ya. Catholicism, you get divorced, you're ostracized. And I will say, I think in the last, last 30, 40 years, I think they've slacked on it. They have, exceptions, things like that. But it's super taboo. Like, oh, you get divorced, you're like a second-rate citizen, and all kinds of things. And of course, like a lot of doctrines from the Catholic Church, it's trickled into Protestantism, which is what a lot of you came out of. And so therefore it kind of clings. And this the whole divorce connotation is like, oh, that's evil, it's sinful, you can't do that. Is it horrible? Does it tear up families? Absolutely. Should it be avoided at all costs? I believe so. I do. So again, is divorce a sin? No. And I saw for all the causes whereby backsliding Yashrael committed adultery, I had to put her away and give her a bill of divorcement. This is key. What we found in Deuteronomy 24 was that a divorce has two main parts. Put them away, send them away, and give her a bill of divorcement. This is going to be key as we get into what Messiah Yahusha was talking about in Matthew 5 and in Matthew 19. 2 steps. So if you do only one step, you haven't done it correctly, and it has huge implications. So Yahuah put her away and gave her a bill of divorcement. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. Once again, idolatry, spiritual fornication. Jeremiah 3:8-9. Yahuah may hate divorce, yet he had to do it for fornication's sake. Idolatry, spiritual fornication. Also, it is worthy of noting that the Hebrew word for putting away has no association with the word keritut, divorce. In times past, men, out of the wickedness of their hearts, would send women away without a writing of divorce, making them incapable of remarrying, which the Torah allows. We read in Deuteronomy 24:1-2. It specifically said when a woman is put away and given a bill of divorce, she can go be another man's husband. Period. End of story. So if a man, would send her away without a writing divorce, it would place them in very difficult situations. This, I imagine, is what Yahuah was truly referencing. And of course, I think I meant to say was Yahusha was truly referencing. Notwithstanding a few verses prior, we get a little more information in Malachi 2 and divorce, which, he did plainly say he hates it. I mean, I'm sure he hated putting Israel away. Judah has dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Yashrael and in Jerusalem, for Judah has profaned the holiness of Yahuah, which he loved, and he has married the daughter of a strange Elohim. Yahuah will cut off the man that does this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offers an offering unto Yahuah Sebaot. Malachi 2:11-12. So Yahuah does not want unions with those who serve foreign Elohim, as we see even Solomon was led astray through these marriages. That's why he forbade it. This will lead into what happened in the time of Ezra during the departure out of Babylon. And what's interesting is this is the physical departure out of Babylon. We are spiritually departing out of Babylon right now. So there's going to have some parallels to it, as hard as this passage is to read and to share with you. Ezra 10. Now when Ezra had prayed, and when he had confessed, weeping and casting himself down before the house of Elohim, there assembled unto him out of Yashrael a very great congregation of men and women and children, for the people wept very sore. And Shechaniah the son of Jehiel, one of the sons of Elam, answered and said unto Ezra, We have trespassed against our Elohim, and have taken strange wives of the people of the land. Yet now there is hope in Israel concerning this thing. Now therefore, let us make a covenant with our Elohim, to put away all the wives, and as such as are born of them, according to the counsel of my master, and of those that tremble at the commandment of our Elohim. And let it be done according to the Torah, Deuteronomy 24:1-2, putting away and giving a bill of divorce. Arise, for this matter belongs unto you. We also will be with you. Be of good courage, and do it. Then arose Ezra, and made the chief priests, the Levites, and all Yashrael to swear that they should do according to this word, and they swear. Then Ezra rose up from before the house of Elohim, and went into the chamber of Johanan the son of Elishib. And when he came thither, he did eat no bread, nor drink water, for he mourned because of the transgression of them that had been carried away. And they made proclamation throughout Judah and Jerusalem unto all the children of captivity, that they should gather themselves together unto Jerusalem. And whosoever would not come within 3 days, according to the counsel of the princes and the elders, all his substance should be forfeited, and himself separated from the congregation of those that have been carried away. Then all the men of Judah and Benjamin gathered themselves together unto Jerusalem within 3 days. It was in the 9th month, on the 20th day of the month. And all the people sat in the street of the house of Elohim, trembling because of this matter, and for the great rain. And Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, You have transgressed, and have taken strange wives to increase the trespass of Israel. Now therefore, make confession unto Yahuah Elohim of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wives. Those are hard words. Those are absolutely hard words. Does he hate divorce? Sure. It says, do his pleasure and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wives. We'll dig into this a little further. Then all the congregation answered and said with a loud voice, As you have said, so we must do. But the people are many, and it is a time of much rain, and we are not able to stand without. Neither is it a work of 1 day or 2, for we are many that have transgressed in this thing. Let now our rulers of all the congregation stand, and let all them which have taken strange wives in our cities come at appointed times, and with them the elders of every city, and the judges thereof, until the fierce wrath of our Elohim for this matter may be turned from us. Only Jonathan the son of Ashael and Jahaziah the son of Tikvah were employed about this matter, and Meshullam and Shabbathiah and a Levite helped them, and the children of captivity also, and Ezra the priest, with certain chief of the fathers, after the house of their fathers, and of all them by their names were separated, and sat down in the first day of the 10th month to examine the matter. And they made an end with all the men that had taken strange wives by the first day of the month. And among the sons of the priest there were found that had taken strange wives, namely the son of Yeshua, the son of Jehozadak, and his brethren Maaseiah and Eleazar and Jarib and Gedaliah, and they all gave their hands that they would put away their wives, and being guilty, they offered a ram of the flock of their trespass. Ezra 10:1-19. So while this passage may be hard to bear, this is the truth of the matter. We know that through the blood of Messiah, the nations were made clean, ready to walk in the truth of Elohim. So the race or the nationality of our spouse is of no concern. So it's a little different in their time. Yet, I'm here to say that that spiritual fornication and service to strange Elohim is still unacceptable in our homes. O Israel, lay down your idols. And Elohim said unto Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, the house of Elohim, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto Elohim, that appeared unto you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. Then Jacob said unto his household and to all that were with him, Put away the strange Elohim that are among you, and be clean, and change your garments, and arise, let us go up to Bethel, the house of Elohim, and I will make there an altar unto Elohim, who answered me in the day of my distress, and was with me in the day which I went. In the way which I went. Genesis 35, 1-3. So the time for us to return to the house of Elohim is here. It's time to clean up your homes, my brethren. And what you'll notice, this study is specifically positioned for the men. We're going to discuss women and your situations here at the end of the study. Men, brethren, it's time to clean up our homes. It's time to take a stand for the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, to put away the strange Elohim that are among you and be clean. I'm going to share with you how to deal with this very shortly. Thus says Yahuah, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Of which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have you sold yourselves, and for your transgressions your mother is put away. Isaiah 50, verse 1. So just as Yahuah had to divorce Yashrael because of transgressions, spiritual fornication, so did the people who came out of Babylon. Moreover, he made high places in the mountains of Judah, and caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit fornication, and compelled Judah thereto. And there came a writing to him from Elijah the prophet, saying, Thus says Yahuah of David your father, because you have not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat your father, nor in the ways of Asa king of Judah, but has walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and has made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to go a whoring, like the whoredoms of the house of Ahab, right? Spiritual fornication. And also has slain your brethren of your father's house, which were better than yourself. 2 Chronicles 21, 11-13. So with this established, now we can truly see what Master Yahusha was teaching. Matthew 19. The Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him, and saying unto him, Is it lawful for a man to put his wife away for every cause? Matthew 19:3. So herein is the context. In every interaction with the Pharisees and or Sadducees, they wanted to trip up Yahusha into transgressing either Yahuah's or their law. This is why it is said they tempted him. We saw the same when the woman who was caught in adultery was brought to him for sentencing. She was not stoned because they had not followed the Torah commandment to bring both the man and the woman to be examined, then executed. The Pharisees in this case wanted Yahusha to openly submit to their added man-made laws for divorce. Here's a quick snippet from Judaism 101. Judaism, so this is the mindset of the Pharisees and Sadducees back then, and this is when they were tempting him. Judaism recognized the concept of no-fault divorce thousands of years ago. Judaism has also accepted divorce as a fact of life, albeit an unfortunate one. Judaism generally maintains that it is better for a couple to divorce than to remain together in a state of constant bitterness and strife. Under Jewish law, this is Talmud, a man can divorce a woman for any reason or no reason. The Talmud specifically says that a man can divorce a woman because she spoiled his dinner or simply because he finds another woman more attractive. This is Jewish law. Not Yah's law, Jewish law. And the woman's consent to divorce is not required. So as we're truly starting to recognize, Messiah Yahusha did not come down to teach a doctrine contrary to the Torah. No. He came to demolish the man-made precepts that either did away with or altered the Torah of Yahuah. Divorce was, and still is, one of those topics. Catholicism goes to the opposite end of the spectrum, which is not to allow it. This has crept into Protestantism. We spoke about this earlier, rendering the divorcees as second-rate citizens. With this in mind, let's continue with Matthew 19. So this is the context of why they're like, is it okay to divorce for every cause, And he answered and said to them, Have you not read that which made them at the beginning and made them male and female? And said, For this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall twain be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more twain, but one flesh. What therefore Elohim has joined together, let not man put asunder. Matthew 19, 4-6. So as we saw with Ezra 10, those marriages were not from Yahuah, and subsequently they were ended. So I'm asking you right now, are all marriages today from Yah? Perhaps not. Especially those that were joined outside of Yahusha and the Torah. Can those marriages perhaps be mended and fixed? Absolutely. I hear testimonies of it all the time. So as we're going through this study, I want you to understand that I'm not sitting here promoting divorce. Like, hey, your spouse is not totally with you, get him out of your house. And that's not what I'm saying here. That is not what I'm saying here. I want you to hear that very clearly. We're going to talk about what things look like. I am here to stand up for the truth. I am here to stand up and say, hey, I don't believe spiritual fornication should be allowed in our homes any longer. But give me some time to explain myself. So let's continue with Matthew 19. We're going to talk about hardness of heart. So anyways, I just wanted to make clear. So when it talks about where Elohim has joined together, let not man put asunder, I'm here to simply say I don't believe every marriage is from Yahuah. We saw evidence for that in Ezra 10, where he commanded them to divorce. They said unto him, why did Moses then command us give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? Right? 2. He says unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffer you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication. And we're going to explore that fornication, what that looks like, because we're all taught today that unless your spouse commits physical adultery on you, then you can't divorce them. We're going to find out that it's not the case, and it actually goes right hand in hand with what the Torah states in Deuteronomy 24. So whoever shall put away his wife, except for it be for fornication, and shall marry another, commits adultery, Matthew 19, 7 through 9. So I can only imagine, and so a lot of people will say, your hardness of heart. So if you didn't have a hardness of heart, then you wouldn't divorce. So you're only divorcing somebody because you're hard-hearted. Like you're a meanie, you're hard of heart, and therefore you shouldn't divorce them and soften your heart. That's not what's actually going on here. I can only imagine if we didn't suffer from any hardness of heart, we wouldn't have any divorces. True? Neither would we have any thefts, murders, adulteries, lies, and so on. Nevertheless, hardness of hearts are present and truly a root of a cause of divorce and many other unfortunate matters. Hardness of heart is not limited to matters of divorce. Ezekiel 36, for I will take you from among the heathen and gather you out of all the countries and will bring you into your own land. Then will I sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your filthiness, and from all your idols will I cleanse you. And a new heart also will I give you, and a new spirit will I put within you, and I will take away the stony heart out of your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit within you and cause you to walk in my statutes, and you shall keep my judgments and do them. That was Ezekiel 36, 24 through 27. And afterward he appeared unto the 11 as they sat at meat, and upbraided them with their unbelief and hardness of heart, because they believed not them which had seen him after he was risen. Mark 16:14. So again, we've all been taught to interpret Matthew 19 like this. Whoever divorces except for physical adultery commits adultery. This doesn't make sense, especially considering the consequence for physical adultery was death. No need for a divorce. We will build upon this in just a bit. Nevertheless, Yahusha was reinforcing the concepts written in Deuteronomy 24, as we covered earlier. Remember, under Jewish law, a man can divorce a woman for any reason or no reason. The Talmud specifically says that a man can divorce a woman because she spoiled his dinner, or simply he finds another woman more attractive, and the woman's consent to the divorce is not required. This is the very doctrine he was wanting to get rid of, and praise Yahuah for that. Matthew 5. It has been said, whosoever shall put away, Greek word apoluo, his wife, let him give her a writing of divorcement, apostasion. But I say unto you that whosoever shall apolu, put away his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery. We're going to explore why. And whosoever shall marry her that is put away, apoluo, commits adultery. Matthew 5:31 through 32. So putting away, apoluo, is a separate act from divorce, or the writing of divorce, apostasion. A legal divorce includes two parts, putting away and a letter of divorce. Let's read Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 2 again. When a man has taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanness, we're going to tie this in a little bit later, in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it into her hand and send her out of his house. So technically 3 steps, but really this is one. Giving the divorce in her hand is 1 step. And the second is to send her out of his house. And when she has departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 2. So here's the context of what Messiah is addressing, because not only did they taint divorce by being like, hey man, you're in charge, you're the man of the house, you can divorce for whatever cause you want. She cooks your meal wrong, that's unclean. You find another woman more attractive, that's uncleanness, right? So they redefined it. Also, these men were wicked in their hearts, and they wanted to spite these women when they send them out of their house, and I'll share with you. So if one were to put away apoluo, his wife, and not give her a bill of divorce, apostasion, then she would be in error of adultery if she were to marry another, just as Matthew 5 states. So if only one out of two steps were carried out, and she went, so let's say she was only sent away and not given a bill of divorcement because he's spiting her, she would commit adultery if she married another, because the whole process hasn't been completed. That contract's not fulfilled. It's not canceled. Yahusha wasn't teaching contrary to the Torah, but reinforcing it, breaking down the man-made traditions, much like he did with every topic. In those days, men would spite their wives by sending them away without a bill of divorcement, putting them into a position of either remaining desolate, because if the woman's like, I don't have, this bill of divorce, right? So they either had to remain desolate, or causing them to commit adultery by remarrying, as it was not easy for a woman to survive on her own back then. It's not like it was now. Back then, a woman needed a man to survive. It wasn't the same kind of economy. It wasn't the same. So if he sent her away, she'd be like, I'm going to die. I'm going to, shrivel away. And she'd go marry another and commit adultery. So the man kind of put her in a position of causing her to commit adultery. That's what Messiah was saying. Let's read this again. It has been said, whoever shall put away his wife, let him give her a writing divorcement. However, I'm saying unto you, because you wicked people are sending your wives away without this bill of divorcement, putting her in a predicament situation. But I say to you that whosoever shall put away his wife, except for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever shall marry her that is put away, apoluo, commits adultery. Does that make a little more sense? Furthermore, it is interesting to note that the Hebrew Gospel of Matthew completely omits the part about putting away and remarriage. Kind of interesting. Side note. Reference right here if you want to read it for yourself. Let's look at some of the uses for apoluo, put away, showing it clearly doesn't mean divorce, but to be sent away. It's two different things, right? So Messiah is not saying here, right, whoever divorces his wife except for the cause of fornication causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever marries her that is divorced commits adultery. That's not what it's saying. That's not what it's saying at all. There's two different words. So let's look at the word apoluo, because he says, whoever marries her that's apoluoed, showing it clearly doesn't mean divorce, but to be sent away. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she cries after us. Apoluo her. Right? This is the woman that was like, the woman that was begging of Yahusha. Is this the Canaanitish woman? I can't remember. Anyways, this is woman, begging to be seen of Yahusha, and the apostles are like, send her away, for she cries after us. Right? Are they saying, divorce her? No, that's not what they're saying. Send her away. Dismiss her. Did the disciples want to divorce the woman or send her away? Now, at the feast, the governor, this is Pilate, of course, was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. And they said had a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, whom will you that I release? Apoluo unto you, Barabbas or Yahusha, which is called Messiah? That's Matthew 27:15-17. So once again, this word is not the same as divorce, but to be sent away. Right? So it was Pilate like, hey, which one of these two prisoners do you want me to divorce? It's kind of silly, right? It doesn't make any sense. Sent away. It's different. Perhaps now we can better understand why the Pharisees were tempting him. Right? Remember, the Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him and saying to him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? In this case, they wanted him to transgress their man-made tradition, their man-made law. So praise Yahuah through his word Yahusha, who loves women and wanted to restore the truth and to preserve women in the case of divorce. He wanted to protect them. That's what the bill of divorcement does. It protects them. And these wicked men were sending them away and not protecting them by giving them a bill of divorce. Yahuah loves women. Women are not some second-rate creature. And that's how these men were treating them. It still goes on today. So let's talk about except for fornication. Let's explore that, because that's important. I'm going to show you that Messiah was not teaching anything different than what Deuteronomy 24:1-2 was stating about that uncleanness, that nakedness we were talking about, that spiritual fornication we were talking about. But I say unto you that whosoever shall put away apoluo his wife, saving for the cause of fornication, causes her to commit adultery, and whosoever shall marry her that is put away, apoluoed, commits adultery. Right? Because remember, if she's sent away without a divorcement and you marry her, that's adultery. Truly, if one were to marry a woman that was put away without a writing of divorce, it would be an act of adultery. The two steps make it a legal end of contract. This scenario was put forth before Yahusha in a desire to tempt him into transgression. When we look at the Greek word used in Matthew 5 for fornication, porneia, we can cross-reference how it was used in the Greek Septuagint, the Old Testament. This is a fantastic tool, right? So not only Strong's is amazing because you can, is it the end-all be-all? No. Is it a great tool? Absolutely. So not only can you see how this word porneia was used in many other circumstances, for example, Paul uses it, I've heard that there is porneia among you, even that one would take his own mother, right? That goes back to the physical nakedness that we learn about in Leviticus 20, but it goes much deeper than that. So what we can do is we can look at this Greek word porneia and how it was used in the Old Testament via the Greek Septuagint translation. So not only do we just get a sample size of what it looks like, how that word is used in the New Testament and other places, but we get an idea of how it was used in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. So nearly every time porneia was used, believe this, check it for yourself, it was in reference to impure worship, false images, idolatry, paganism. Here's a passage that will make things pretty clear. And son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt. What did the children of Israel do in Egypt? They learned idolatry, fornication. That's why when they came out of the wilderness, and Moses was gone for 40 days, the very first thing they did was, the only thing we know is what we learned in Egypt. Let's build this calf and worship it. They committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teats of their virginity. And the names of them were Aholah the elder, and Aholibah her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names, Samaria as Aholah, and Jerusalem Aholibah. And Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians her neighbors, right? This is all spiritual fornication, serving other Elohim, strange worship, idolatry, which were clothed in blue, captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses. Thus she committed her whoredoms. And this is that Greek word porneia. With them, with all them that were chosen men of Assyria, and with all on whom she doted, with all their idols she defiled herself. Neither left she her whoredoms brought from Egypt. For in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised the breasts of her virginity, and poured their whoredom upon her. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hands of her lovers, and into the hand of the Assyrians, upon whom she doted. These discovered her nakedness. They took her sons and her daughters, and slew her with the sword, and she became famous among women. For they had executed judgment upon her. And when her sister Aholibah saw this, she was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she, and in her whoredoms more than her sister in her whoredoms. She doted upon the Assyrians her neighbors, captains and rulers, clothed most gorgeously, horsemen riding upon horses, all of them desirable young men. Then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both one way, and that she increased her whoredoms. This is again porneia. For when she saw men portrayed on the wall, the images of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, girded with girdles upon their loins, exceeding in dyed attire upon their heads, all of them princes to look to, after the manner of the Babylonians of Chaldea, the land of their nativity. And as soon as she saw them with her eyes, she doted upon them, and sent messengers unto them in Chaldea. And the Babylonians came to her in the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredom. And she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them. So she discovered her whoredoms, and discovered her nakedness. Then my mind was alienated from her, like as my mind was alienated from her sister. Yet she multiplied her whoredoms, in calling to remembrance the days of her youth, wherein she had played the harlot in the land of Egypt. For she doted upon their paramours, whose flesh is as the flesh of asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Thus you call to remembrance the lewdness of your youth, in bruising your teats by the Egyptians for the paps of your youth. Therefore, O Aholibah, thus says Yahuah Elohim, behold, I will raise up your lovers against you, from whom your mind is alienated, and I will bring them against you on every side. The Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pekod and Shoah and Koah, and all the Assyrians with them, all of them desirable young men, captains and rulers, great masters and renowned, all of them riding upon horses. And they shall come against you with chariots, wagons, and wheels, and with an assembly of people, which shall set up against you your buckler and shield and helmet round about. And I will set judgment before them, and they shall judge you according to their judgments. And I will set my jealousy against you, and they shall deal furiously with you. And they shall take away your nose and your ears, and your remnant shall fall by the sword. And they shall take away the sons and your daughters, and your residue shall be devoured by fire. They shall also strip you out of your clothes. There's your nakedness, uncleanness, and take away your fair jewels. Thus will I make your lewdness to cease from you, and your whoredom brought from the land of Egypt, so that you shall not lift up your eyes unto them. No, remember Egypt any more. For thus says Yahuah Elohim, behold, I will deliver you into the hand of them whom you hate, into the hand of them whom your mind is alienated, and they shall deal with you hatefully, and shall take away all your labor, and shall leave you naked and bare, and the nakedness of your whoredoms, your porneia, shall be discovered, both your lewdness and your whoredoms. Now listen, I read all that to read this. So what is this porneia? Right? What is this porneia that causes nakedness? That's uncleanness that we read about in Deuteronomy 24, 1 through 2. I will do these things unto you because you have gone a whoring after the heathen and nations, and because you are polluted with their idols. Ezekiel 23, 1 through 29. Remember, when someone commits physical adultery, right, the sentence was death. There's no need for a divorce. This is what it was talking about. In Deuteronomy 13, it says, right, if your friend, I'm loosely quoting, paraphrasing, if you will, if your friend or your family member or even the wife in your bosom comes and says to you, come, let us serve Elohim, they're supposed to be, right, they're supposed to be stoned, right? Yahuah is a jealous El. Yahuah does not want us to have spiritual fornication, spiritual wickedness, idolatry in our homes. Brothers and sisters, I do not believe Yahuah wants us to sit idly while joined to those who still practice spiritual fornication. We are to stand for Yahuah's truth in patience, love, and meekness. The last thing on earth we should do is to bear bad fruit within the home. Strive for the truth unto death, and Yahuah will fight for you. Sirach, Ecclesiasticus 4:28. I believe with what we have studied thus far, we can better understand what Paul was saying here. 1 Corinthians. Know you not that your bodies are the members of Mashiach? Shall I then take the members of Mashiach and make them members of an harlot? Elohim forbid. What? Know you not that he which is joined to an harlot is one body? We know that there's spiritual significance to these things. Should we be joined to a physical prostitute? Of course not. What about a spiritual prostitute? Paul made it very clear that there's spiritual matters in the Torah, right? When he talks about do not muzzle the ox while it treads out the corn. He's like, do you think this is just about an ox? Of course not. For two, says he, shall be one flesh, but he that is joined unto Yahuah is one spirit. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man does is without the body, but he that commits fornication sins against his own body. What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is in you, which ye have of Elohim, and ye are not of your own? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify Elohim in your body and in your spirit, which are Elohim's. 1 Corinthians 6:15 through 20. Brothers, how can we be joined to a spouse who continues in idolatry, paganism, and other forms of fornication? Let me be clear here. Am I encouraging everyone to go get divorced? Hardly. What I'm encouraging is to stand up for the truth and let Yahuah show you what is to transpire. Perhaps your spouse has been waiting for your boldness. I've actually seen this. I'm not going to speak about a certain brother's situation, but I shared this study in private before I've made it public, and it had the effect that he wanted, which is for his wife to hearken. Sometimes Yahuah may just be testing us, right? Seeing if we're willing to give it all up for him, then he delivers. Think Abraham. Notwithstanding, a happy ending with your marriage may not always be the end result, although we should be striving for that, seeking for that. The goal should be the preservation of the marriage, for your wife to put away the idolatry, the paganism, the false worship, whatever it may be. That's the goal, not to just send her away. However, if they don't listen, or if Yahuah deems another course of action to be had, then that's what has to happen, like in Ezra 10. And everyone that forsakes houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake. And what's his name's sake? Is it just the pronunciation of his name? No, we've learned that. We've learned that his name is his truth, it's his commandments, it's his Torah, it's his way of living. It's loving him with all of our heart. It's loving our neighbor with all of our heart. It's fleeing fornication. It's leaving Babylon. So whoever forsakes houses, brethren, sisters, father, mother, or wife, or children, or lands for my name's sake shall receive an hundredfold and shall inherit everlasting life. Nothing should come before him. Compromise should not come before him. Matthew 19:29. This only applies if they are standing in the way of serving Elohim, not just tossing them aside for any cause like the Pharisees did. Our spouses are our closest neighbor after all. Time. They should have some time. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Revelation 2:21. I do believe we should have love, compassion, meekness as we share the truth with our spouses. Going around like a lion in your home, it's not going to change anybody's heart. It's not going to plant any seeds. Also, we should give space, time for them to repent, just as is written here in Revelation 2. What kind of time frame? Only Yahuah knows. And I'm sure each situation is different. This is hardly a one-size-fits-all topic, but time should be given, some space. That's what Yahuah did with Israel. He gave him time. We don't have hundreds of years like he does to give Israel to repent. But some time should be given. 1 Corinthians 7. But to the rest I, not Yahuah. But to the rest speak I, not Yahuah. If any brother has a wife that believes not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. 1 Corinthians 7:12. A couple things. We must acknowledge that Paul openly admits this whole passage is from him, his opinion, and not directly from Yahuah. However, I highly value his opinion. Even so, this is predicated on the woman being pleased to dwell with him. We must realize they need to be pleased with us and how we run the home. We must realize, if we make a stand for the truth, throwing out the Christmas tree and all forms of false worship, and they are in unison with this, then praise Yah, even if they remain in unbelief. And I know of situations like this. I know situations like this in both the man and the woman's case. I know some sisters that learned the truth and went to their husbands and was like, hey, this is what needs to happen in the house. And the husband's like a non-believer, but he's like, okay, sounds good. I don't need to do Christmas anymore. I don't need to do Halloween anymore. Whatever you say, babe. Okay. 1 Corinthians 7:12. They be pleased to dwell with them. If they resist the changes we must make in the home, then they are not pleased to dwell with us, which leads to other scenarios. Not desirable, but we have to sanctify our homes. We have to talk the talk and walk the walk. And the woman which has an husband that believes not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they set apart. 1 Corinthians 7:13-14. We will discuss the position of the wife towards the end of the study. It's worthy to note in these passages in 1 Corinthians 7 are discussing unbelieving, not fornicating or disobedient spouses. I've seen both. I've seen both in this walk. There's the passive spouse that's just like, hey, do your thing. Fine. We don't eat pork in the house anymore? Okay, fine, whatever. No big deal. Whatever you say. Whatever you say, honey. Still not going to join you on this walk, but yeah, we can get rid of that stuff. We don't have to do the Christmas tree this year. Just throw it in the trash. Fine. Bam. All is well. Or the other scenario, no. We're not getting rid of that, right? We're not getting rid of the Christmas tree. No, this is my traditions. This is what I want to do. Well, now we have some problems. Because Yahuah does not allow compromise. Not when it comes to worship. Not when it comes to impure worship. Not when it comes to idolatry. Not when it comes to serving other Elohim. Even if they don't know they're serving Elohim. There's no compromise. It's not happening. But as we said in this portion here, time should be given. How much time? That's between you and Yah. That's not for me to call. He'll let you know when it's time. We will discuss the position. Verse 15. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or a sister is not under bondage in such cases, but Elohim has called us to shalom, to peace. We need to make the necessary change in our homes and take the stand. If this sets a divorce in motion, then this is the will of Yahuah. Remember Ezra 10. We must approach these things with love, meekness, and humility. I can't stress that enough. Because going and making changes in your home like a ravaging lion in your house, you already know where it's going to go. And that shouldn't be where you want it to go. And the servant of Yahuah must not strive, but be gentle unto all men, apt to teach, patient, in meekness, instructing those that oppose themselves, if Elohim peradventure will give them repentance of acknowledging of the truth, the Torah, and that they may recover themselves out of the snare of the devil who are taken captive by him at his will. 2 Timothy 2:24-26. This is how I believe we should approach all topics with anybody, and especially and including divorce. Or the topic shouldn't be divorce. The topic should be cleaning up your household, getting rid of the idols, getting rid of the false worship, getting rid of the paganism. Maybe even throwing those darn TVs out. I don't know. At least not watching any garbage on them anymore. Maybe just watching studies and stuff. I don't know. So the last thing on earth I want from this study, the fruit from this study, the last thing on earth that I want is for people to go straight for divorces. Again, each home has its uniqueness and each situation is different. If you haven't prayed and fasted for your spouse, it's time. Yahuah above all else. He that loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and he that loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Matthew 10:37. If we make compromise after compromise when it comes to spiritual fornication, who are we putting above Yahuah, right? If any man come to me and hate not his father and mother and wife and children and brethren and sisters, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. Luke 14:26. Perhaps hate can be better understood as loving more than him. Right? So let's read this again. If any man come to me and love his father or mother or wife and children or brethren or sisters more than me, and his life also, he cannot be my disciple. We cannot love our spouses and our children more than Yahuah. And for a lot of us, that's hard. For a lot of us, our family is everything. Therefore, we cannot tolerate compromise in our homes when it comes to serving Yahuah. Who are you more worried about disobeying, Yahuah or your spouse? Who are you more worried about getting angry, your spouse or Yahuah? The fear of Yahuah is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Proverbs 1:7. If we place our spouses above Yahuah, who are we serving? Think about it. I actually forgot to put this section in here, but, when we're talking about our divorcees, second-rate citizens, this is actually a very little known topic, but did you know that Moses was actually divorced before he married Zipporah, before he went to the children of Israel? Did you know that? It's in the book of Yashar. Some of you question that book. I believe it's scripture with all my heart. But in that book, he married a Cushite woman, an Ethiopian woman, when he fled. He actually ruled in that kingdom for 20 years, was it maybe? And he married a Cushite woman. And then later on got divorced and then went out the other way. So went to Midian and Mount Metzipporah and whatnot. So Moses was a divorced man. Consider that for a moment. Yeah, you'll have to search what chapters those are. I'll actually tell you what. Let me give you that reference. Give me just a second. So, hold on. Yeah, Jasher 72. So read Jasher 72 if you want to look into that a little further. All right. Sirach 25. I had rather dwell with a lion and a dragon than to keep house with a wicked woman. The wickedness of a woman changes her face and darkens her countenance like sackcloth. Her man shall sit among his neighbors, and when he hears it, shall sigh bitterly. All wickedness is but a little to the wickedness of a woman. Let the portion of a sinner fall upon her. As the climbing up a sandy way is to the feet of the aged, so is a woman full of words to a quiet man. Stumble not at the beauty of a woman, and desire her not for pleasure. A woman, if she maintain her man, is full of anger. impudence, and much reproach. A wicked woman abates the courage, makes heavy countenance, and a wounded heart. A woman that will not comfort her man in distress makes weak hands and feeble knees. Of the woman came the beginning of sin, and through her we all die. Give the water no passage, neither a wicked woman at liberty to gad abroad. If she go not as you would have her, cut her off from your flesh, and give her a bill of divorce, and let her go. According to Deuteronomy 24, the 2 steps, send her out, bill of divorce. And that's all predicated as if she will not go the way you have her. Again, we need to make the necessary changes in our home. If she doesn't go the way you'd have her, then that is Yahuah's will. Here's a story for you. Abraham encouraged divorce in a certain scenario. Abraham, Ishmael, and the tent peg. And Abraham rode upon one of his camels to the wilderness to seek his son Ishmael, for he heard that he was dwelling in a tent in the wilderness with all belonging to him. And Abraham went to the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and he found the wife of Ishmael sitting in the tent with her children. And Ishmael, her husband, and his mother were not with him. And Abraham asked the wife of Ishmael, saying, Where has Ishmael gone? And she said, He has gone to the field to hunt. And Abraham was still mounted upon the camel, for he would not get off the ground, as he had sworn to his wife Sarah that he would not get off from the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael his wife, My daughter, give me a little water that I may drink, for I am fatigued from the journey. And Ishmael's wife answered and said to Abraham, We have neither water nor bread. And she continued sitting in the tent and did not notice Abraham. Neither did she ask him who he was. But she was beating her children in the tent, and she was cursing them. And she also cursed her husband Ishmael and reproached him. And Abraham heard the words of Ishmael's wife to her children, and he was very angry and displeased. And Abraham called to the woman to come out to him from the tent. And the woman came and stood opposite to Abraham, for Abraham was still mounted upon the camel. And Abraham said to Ishmael's wife, When thy husband Ishmael returns home, say these words to him, A very old man from the land of the Philistines came hither to seek you. And thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing you were not here, spoke unto me and said, When Ishmael thy husband returns, tell him thus did say this man, When you come home, put away this nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Abraham finished his instructions to the woman, and he turned and went off the camel homeward. And after that Ishmael came from the chase, he and his mother, and returned to the tent, and his wife spoke these words to him. A very old man from the land of the Philistines came to seek you, and thus was his appearance and figure. I did not ask him who he was, and seeing you were not home, he said to me, When your husband comes home, tell him, Thus says the old man, Put away the nail of the tent which you have placed here, and place another nail in its stead. And Ishmael heard the words of his wife, and he knew that it was his father, and that his wife did not honor him. And Ishmael understood his father's words that he had spoken to his wife. And Ishmael hearkened to the voice of his father, and Ishmael cast off the woman, and she went away. And Ishmael afterward went to the land of Canaan, and took another wife, and he brought her to his tent, to the place where he then dwelt. And at the end of 3 years Abraham said, I will go again and see Ishmael his son, for I have not seen him for a long time. And he rode upon his camel and went into the wilderness, and he reached the tent of Ishmael about noon. And he asked after Ishmael, and his wife came out of the tent, and she said, He is not here, my master, for he has gone to hunt in the fields, and to feed the camels. And the woman said to Abraham, Turn in, my master, into the tent, and eat a morsel of bread, for your soul must be wearied on account of the journey. And Abraham said to her, I will not stop, for I am in haste to continue my journey. But give me a little water to drink, for I have thirst. And the woman hastened and ran into the tent, and she brought out water and bread to Abraham, which she placed before him, and she urged him to eat. And he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he blessed his son Ishmael. And he finished his meal, and he blessed Yahuah, and he said to Ishmael's wife, When Ishmael comes home, say these words to him, A very old man from the land of Philistines came here and asked after you, and you were not here. And I brought him out bread and water, and he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words to me, When Ishmael thy husband comes home, say unto him, The nail of the tent which you have is very good, and do not put away from the tent. And Abraham finished commanding the woman, and he rode off his home to the land of the Philistines. And when Ishmael came to his tent, his wife went forth to meet him with joy and a cheerful heart. And she said to him, An old man came here from the land of the Philistines, and thus was his appearance. And he asked after you, and was not here, and you were not here. So I brought out bread and water. And he ate and drank, and his heart was comforted. And he spoke these words unto me, When Ishmael thy husband comes home, say to him, The nail of the tent which you have is very good, and do not put it away from the tent. And Ishmael knew that it was his father, and that his wife had honored him, and Yahuah blessed Ishmael. Yashar 21:23-48. While Yahuah may hate divorce, and so should we, it is allowed per the Torah, especially when unrighteousness and spiritual fornication and idolatry and wickedness is involved. As always, take these matters to Yahuah directly. So the last portion of this I want to discuss is women and their specific situation, because it's a little different. Per the Torah, it's a little different. I want to also share with you why I'm sharing these matters. I've been very open in this ministry about my life, my personal life. I think you have a right to know, because you may not agree with the study I just put forth. You may not agree with my conclusions, and it's your right to know why I'm speaking these matters. I'm not going to get into too many details for my former wife's sake, but this is something that I've had to deal with in my life recently, and over the last 3.5, almost 4 years, I've been giving my wife that time to put away these things, and a lot of things we talked about tonight in the study, and the time happened that I asked her to finally put things away, and she desired a divorce instead of reconciling these matters. So I am in the process of divorce. I have given her the bill of divorcement per Deuteronomy 24, and we are now going through the earthly courts and getting a divorce in that way as well. So it's your right to know that. It's your right to know these things. That way, therefore, you can do one of a couple things. You can pray for me and my children, because that's really where who loses here is the children. You can either rebuke me. You can do it to my face. You can, it'd be your right to gossip and slander me if you choose. Because I can tell you right now, in the future, I do plan on remarrying. And so you have the right to know these things, or you can simply just say, Adam's a false teacher, and you can just walk away from this ministry. Those are your rights. And many other things other scenarios that I can't even imagine at this point. So I want to be forward with you and open with you. I have nothing to hide. And like I said, there's a lot more details that I don't want to go over at this time for her sake. I don't want to shame her. I don't want to speak evil of her, but just to know that this study has pertained a lot of what's gone on in my life. So with that being said, I want to continue on with the rest of the study from a female's perspective, a woman's perspective. So as you probably noticed, this study has been primarily viewed from the male perspective. I'd like to mention a few things regarding women with unbelieving or fornicating husbands. Let's go back to Deuteronomy 24. When a man has taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he has found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and be another man's wife. Deuteronomy 24, 1-2. Let's be frank with each other, right? It doesn't give provision for a wife to put away and divorce the husband. It's not there. However, we do see Yahusha acknowledging that it actually does happen here. And if a woman shall put away her husband and be married to another, she commits adultery. Mark 10:12. Now, does that mean that Yahusha gives permission for a woman to divorce her husband? That's not how the text reads. But it is interesting and worthy of notation. Let's also go back to 1 Corinthians 7. And the woman which has an husband that believes not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, let her not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. So Paul does kind of allude that there is a possibility that she can leave him, right? But, can she legally divorce him? Can a woman give a man a bill of divorcement? That's not how the Torah reads, right? And so I'm not trying to be unfair or whatnot, but all I'm trying to do is stand up for what the Torah says and what it doesn't say, and not have my own interpretation. So we'll discuss submission momentarily, right? Because that's another big topic. But I'm here to say that I believe women are called to stand for the truth in their homes, just as men are. We saw how Yahuah rose up Deborah, a woman in the midst of Yashrael, when men wouldn't do so. Could this apply when the man isn't leading the home as he should? Remember, patience, spirit, and truth as you stand for what's right. If your fruit is rotten, your efforts will produce the wrong results every single time. Hands down, The role of the man is to be the leader and headship of the home. No questions asked. If you'd like me to do another study on that and say, prove that, Adam, I don't believe you, we'll do so. The problem is the enemy has been doing his job well of distorting everything. He has masculinized females and feminized males. Much like how Paul stated this was his opinion, so will this be from me moving forward. If the man is not aligned with Yahuah, I do believe the woman is to temporarily take the spiritual charge of the home, being a good example to her husband and children. Not the physical charge of the home, not being like, I'm the boss now, and I'm going to tell you, husband, what's going to happen around here. No, but in a spiritual sense, praying over the family, standing up for the Torah in the family household, right? So, like standing up for not eating pork, standing up for keeping the Sabbath set apart, right? From not shopping and going out to dinner and doing these things, keeping the feast days instead of the pagan holidays, right? Likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also without the word may be won by the conversation of the wives. This word conversation here in the Greek, well, actually, I think we'll get into it here in a second, actually means your behavior. And this behavior, in my understanding, is a behavior that is in alignment with Yahuah and his Torah. The men should see the good fruit of a woman. Even an unbelieving man should see a Proverbs 31 woman. And like let all of his friends know, like, I've got a Torah wife. She is the best, right? She cooks, she cleans, she serves me, right? She honors me. Even though I don't believe the same stuff she does, she still honors me. Now, you know, she won't eat pork and she won't do Christmas and she won't do stuff on the seventh day of the week. She has all these holidays which are kind of cool, whatever. So my point is you need to honor your husband in everything secular, everything not pertaining to, really anything that doesn't involve disobeying Yahuah. But if it involves disobeying Yahuah, that's where I say this blind submission is not applicable. And let me explain my position, because I know this is going to set off a bee's nest, and I don't mean to, but some things just need to be spoken of. So that was 1 Peter 3:1. So let's talk about submission to husbands. In all honesty, I do believe that many women have room to mature in this area, where you grew up in a mindset and a culture that is far removed from the scriptural model. With this comes an imbalance within the home. Here's a fact. When there's two, one will rise up to be the leader. Yahuah has designated the man for this role. Period. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In sorrow shall you bring forth children, and your desire shall be to your husband, and he shall rule over you. One of the very first commands given out of the garden. And submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto Yahuah. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Messiah is the head of the assembly and the Savior of the body. Ephesians 5:21-23. Let's break this down for a moment. Before the woman is called to be in subjection to her husband, we see a call to be submitted to one another. This gives us a context of submission. Do we submit to someone walking in opposition to the truth of Yahuah? Hardly. Next, we see the call for women to submit to their husbands as we do to Yahuah. We can fully submit to Yahuah because we can trust him. He is the truth. There is no wickedness in him. There's no falsehood in him. How can we fully submit ourselves to one who is walking contrary to Elohim? Messiah says it best, and I'll explain my position based off Messiah's words here shortly. We know that the Pharisees and the Sadducees were rulers over the people, and Messiah recognizes this, and he encourages submission to proper authority, except in certain cases, and I'll share that with you. Then spake Yahusha to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moshe's seat, right, the ruler's seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you to observe, that observe and do. Hearken to authority. Women, your husband is the authority in the home. However, but do you not after their works, for they say and do not, for they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one finger. When it comes to matters of Torah, obey them in all things. However, when in matters that are in disobedience to Torah and disobedience to Yahuah, which is Yahusha's whole ministry, do not do as they do. Undoubtedly, these Pharisees and Sadducees were rulers of Israel at this time, and Yahusha instructed them to obey them in matters of Torah. However, we see he does not encourage full submission when one is teaching or leading in error. How much more when a husband is improperly leading the home? The woman is not some second-rate creature that doesn't deserve to walk fully in Yahuwah's ways. Let me read that again. The woman is not some second-rate creature that doesn't deserve to walk fully in Yahuwah's ways. She deserves to be obedient to the Torah just as any man does. So what exactly am I saying here so that my words aren't twisted? Am I encouraging a woman to rise up against her husband? Hardly so. The opposite. What I'm encouraging is the same Yahusha did to his disciples. Obey authority, the man, except in matters contrary to serving Yahuah. So he wants you to do the dishes at 6 p.m. every night. Ladies, do the dishes at 6 p.m. every night. He wants you to, pick up his clothes from the dry cleaner at a certain day of the week. Just pick them up and do it with a pure heart. But when it comes to disobedience to Yahuwah's ways, that's where I don't believe you have that obligation to do so. I know these are some maybe some very hard words for a lot of people out there, but these are the examples we get from Scripture, and I've got a lot more evidence to bolster this. For example, if a husband commanded his wife to partake in pork, I would recommend she remain firm in saying no. Likewise, if he were to forbid her to attend a Sabbath gathering, I would also recommend she remain firm and do so in meekness and humility. Women need to be that Proverbs 30 wife who cherishes and serves her husband with all reverence, doing as he asks, except in transgression of Yahuwah. We see parallel stories with Daniel, Azariah, Hananiah, and Mishael. They were commanded to be in submission to Babylon. And they were in all matters, except in transgression to Yahuwah. With this, they stood firm in humility, and Yahuwah delivered. Remember, strive for the truth unto death, and Yahuwah will fight for you. Sirach, Ecclesiastes 4:28. True submission. True leaders don't need to let everyone know that they're the leader. In a similar fashion, true submission is easily obtained when the man is operating in his true order. Submit yourselves to every ordinance of man for Yahuwah's sake, whether it be to the king as supreme, or unto the governors as unto them that are sent by him for the punishment of evildoers, and for the praise of them that do well. For so is the will of Elohim, that with well-doing ye may put to silence the ignorance of foolish men. Herein we get a solid context for submission. Ask yourself this question. Do we submit to every ordinance of the government? That's what he says right here. What if they require us to break Torah? Do we do it? Of course not. What if they require the V? Certainly. We are in Egypt again, and their rules must be followed. Much like what we just mentioned with Daniel, Azariah, Hananiah, Mishael, and Babylon. Were they law-abiding citizens? Absolutely they were. They even ruled in the kingdom. Again, however, when it came to matters that would put them in transgression of Yahuwah's ways, they did not submit, even putting themselves in situations that would bring death. Think about Esther. When it came to a matter of transgression of Torah, right, in the decimation of her people, she stood firm and did something in contrary to the law of her husband, the king, and delivered the whole kingdom. And when they had brought... so herein is we get the definition of submission, right? So the same person, Peter, that said, submit yourself to every ordinance of man for Yahuwah's sake, said this also. And when they had brought them, they set them before the council, and the high priest asked them, saying, Did we not straightly command you that you should not teach in this name? And behold, ye have filled Jerusalem with your doctrine, and intend to bring this man's blood upon us. Then Peter and the other apostles answered and said, We ought to obey Elohim rather than men. Acts 5:27-29. This is what I'm led to share. The woman is undoubtedly to be in submission to her husband, just as men were in subjection to the ruling authorities, except when matters of transgression arose. I believe we can apply this as a parable to a home with a woman unequally yoked to an unbelieving spouse. Here's the key. She needs to be a shining light in the home, not contentious, nor full of strife, but love, with the intentions of winning her husband over to the truth, then giving him ample room to take back the lead spiritually. This should be the goal at all times, not to usurp what is his. Remember, Likewise, you wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, if he be not an unbeliever, they may also without the word, an unbeliever, be won by the conversation of the wives. Let's look at this word conversation. But before we do that, consider this chapter started with likewise. We must make mention that 1 Peter 2, 18 through 25 spoke about Messiah Yahusha being obedient even when he was punished for doing well. He didn't compromise, but he stood firm for the truth, and he was killed for it. Of course, he willingly laid down his own life, but nevertheless, he was killed for it. So these unbelieving husbands may be won over by the conversation of the wives. Let's take the Greek word used for conversation, anastrophe. All right? Manner of life, conduct, behavior, properly walk, manner of life. The ways in which holy living shows itself. This isn't just a conversation like how you're talking. That's part of it. But this is about your walk of life. So the woman should win over the husband by her walk of life, her walk in Torah, being a Proverbs 31 wife while standing firm for the truth. This word isn't just about conversation, it's about behavior, walking in the way. Here's a few more examples of how this word was used. Who is a wise man endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. So this conversation has to do with your works. James 3:13. Truly through the good works of the wife, the husband might come to the truth. As obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust and your ignorance, but as he which has called you is holy, so be holy in all manner of conversation. This is, of course, your obedience. Because it is written, be ye holy, be set apart, for I am set apart. 1 Peter 14 through 16. Certainly, this word portrays obedience. Likewise, ye wives, be in subjection to your own husbands, that if any obey not the word, they also without the word may be won by the obedience of the wives, while they behold your obedience coupled with fear. Whose adorning, let it not be the outward adorning of the plaiting of the hair and wearing of gold or putting on apparel, but let it be the hidden man or woman of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of Elohim of great price. For after this manner in the old time, when the holy women also who trusted Elohim adorned themselves, being in subjection to their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham. She could obey him in all things, of course, because he was proper headship, calling him master. Try that out and emphasize. Whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement. Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife, as unto the weaker vessel, as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. And I'm gonna have to do a separate video on husbands ruling the home, and what that looks like. Because I think a lot of people, want to rule with an iron rod, and you're the woman, you got to do as I say, right? Again, good leaders don't even have to let them know that they're being led. Just consider that for a moment. Women, if you are in this predicament of having a husband who will not lead the home in righteousness, then I do believe you are to stand your ground for a walk in the truth. Let me back up for just a second. I just want to mention this with men. So, I believe we get the best example of leadership with Messiah Yahusha. How did he lead, right? Yeah. He led by giving up himself up for the people, washing their feet, serving them. How much more for our wives? If we're to lead them, how would we lead them, right? With an iron rod? Or with tender, loving care and mercy? Women, if you are in this predicament of having a husband who will not lead their home in righteousness, then I do believe you are to stand your ground for walking in the truth. It must be done in meekness and humility, not breaking down your husband, but building him up, praying, fasting, supplicating to Yahuah to open his eyes that he may be restored as you are. Your goal should be for him to rightfully take the seat of honor in the home, not to usurp it for yourself, for this is not the plan of Yahuah for the home. Nevertheless, when things get out of order, steps need to be taken. We have two witnesses of women who did not obey their husbands when they were in transgression to Yahuah and were rewarded for doing so. Abigail, 1 Samuel 25. It's a long passage, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. Read it for yourselves if you want the whole context. The synopsis. Nabal, an unrighteous man known as a son of Belial, makes a decision contrary to Torah. I'll give you the context. So David and his men protect the flocks of Nabal, did him very well. David and his men wanted repayment. They just wanted some food. And one of the servants came to Nabal and was like, hey, such and such. And Nabal was like, who's this David? I'm not giving him anything, which is contrary to Torah. You should pay a man his wages. So Nabal makes a decree not to feed David in his house. David is getting ready to destroy the whole house. Abigail disregards Nabal's decree and takes care of David and his people behind Nabal's back, saving her whole household. Nabal dies 10 days later, and she is rewarded by David taking her to wife. This is an example of a righteous woman not obeying the unrighteous decree of a man. Zipporah is a woman standing for what's right. This one's short, so I'll read it. Zipporah went behind Moses' back as well when it came to a matter that was in transgression to Yahuah. That's the only reason a woman should ever do so, is to disobey her husband. And Moshe rose up to go to Egypt, and he took his wife and sons with him. And he was at an inn at the road, and the angel of Elohim came down and sought occasion against him. And he wished to kill him on account of this firstborn son, because he had not circumcised him, and had transgressed the covenant which Yahuah made with Abraham. For Moshe had hearkened to the words of his father-in-law, which he had spoken to him, not to circumcise his firstborn. Therefore he is circumcised not. So Moshe made a decision, wherever the advice came from, he made a decision not to circumcise Gershom. And Zipporah saw the angel of Yahuah seeking an occasion against Moshe, and she knew that this thing was owing to his not having circumcised her son Gershom. And Zipporah hastened and took a sharp rock of the stones that was there, and she circumcised her son, and delivered her husband and her son from the hand of the angel of Yahuah. You women with unbelieving husbands, you have the opportunity to act like Abigail and to act like Zipporah. Well, at least like Zipporah, because she actually saved Moses' life and the whole household by disobeying her husband only because he was in transgression of Yahuah. So if your husband is transgressing Yahuah and wants you to do so, I do not believe that you submit and hearken to that. Because you can take that 10 steps further and go with the obvious. I was speaking to a brother who originally disagreed with me fully on this concept, but after kind of exploring this in full detail, realized that at some point he had to agree with my line of thinking here, because he's like, okay, well, at some point I have to join you in this because, well, if the husband tells the wife to go murder somebody, that's an obvious no. That's a hard no. Okay? What if he, has perversions and wants her to commit some sort of physical adultery or fornication? That's a hard no. Well, is the Sabbath any lesser of a truth or a commandment? What about the command to eat unclean foods? What about the command to keep the feast days? We can explore this in great detail. Now, here's my caveat to this, and this is where we think we need to have further discussions. Where do you draw the line? What if you got a husband that's kind of with you, but he's just not taking the full charge like you are? What if he's taking a lazy approach and he's like, yeah, Torah, Yahuah, I'll wear the tassels, but doesn't really invest the time like you do? And what if you're fully convinced, it's morning to morning Sabbath, but he's staying with evening to evening, or vice versa, right? What if he watched one video and got convinced that it's morning to morning, and you know with all your heart that it's evening to evening? What do you do then? I think there is a hierarchy of truth. I'm not trying to be contradictive here. I'm really trying to explore this and what this really looks like. I think we really need to have some further conversations as where do you draw the line of submitting to your husband in. So is keeping a morning to morning Sabbath unrighteous? I don't think so. Do I think it's correct? No. Same thing with like a different calendar. What if you're convinced on one calendar, he's convinced on another calendar? I think you give the honor to the husband in those matters. But when it comes to directly disobeying Yahuah's ways, I don't believe you follow your husband in that matter. A lot more to discuss in this arena. I wanted to bring this topic up because, well, it was time. Anyway, Zipporah disregards Moses' command not to circumcise Gershom, as she knew it was contrary to the Torah of Yahuah. She saved her household by her obedience to Yahuah. For what do you know, O wife, whether you shall save your husband? Or how do you know, O man, whether you shall save your wife? How do you do that? Do you do that by sitting idly and not standing up for what's right? Or do you do that by standing up for what's right in spirit and in truth, filled with a ruach of Elohim, in meekness, in long-suffering, and in guidance, by praying, fasting, and Yahuah might just turn their heart? It doesn't happen every time. It doesn't. But you have to take that opportunity. For those of you in these types of situations, it isn't and won't be easy. Nevertheless, Yahuah be with you as you remain a shining light in your home, being the example to your husband and children, even if it is operated like Babylon. Think about it. Daniel operated in Babylon. Obeyed in all secular matters. But when it came to serving as Elohim, he said, that's where I draw the line. For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father. Then he will repay each person. And you look at the Greek. It's not man. It's women too. He will repay each person according to what he or she has done. Matthew 16:27.